everyone. Welcome to day two of Ignite Your Soul Connection Summer Edition. Tonight, we are talking about healing waters for men, and our conversation will be with Martin and Marshawn, where we will be discussing empowered emotions. Now, that might sound like a loaded, comment, but empowered emotions will be something that at the end of the night, you will be so grateful that you tapped into this. However, we're going to give people a few minutes to get in, and then as soon as people get in, we're going to do a 3-minute breathing session. So I suggest that in that meantime, you might want to get pen and paper to write with. You may want to get a cup of water or a cup of tea, something to have by your side as we talk. Okay? So let's just give a few minutes. We'll start at the 3-3 mark. Thank you. Welcome everyone as you come in. Welcome.
Can we
If you
say hi to
have
people
water,
if we see them?
no.
No, gotcha. Perfect.
You can text them on the
Oh,
chat.
gotcha.
Because you'll be doing that all night if we do that.
Only saw one person. That was all.
Okay. Well, you can say hi on the chat so they can see you.
Okay. How do you do that?
On the
Oh, it says chat. I'm
yeah.
slow. Okay.
No,
Oh,
that's fine. I was going to say on the. I was trying to see what side, but it's on your bottom, I believe.
gotcha. Well, she knows this. Okay. Okay.
Okay, we're coming in. Have a few more seconds before we start our breathing. And again, I invite everyone to either have water or juice or your favorite beverage, a cup of tea, something that will soothe you as we have this amazing discussion tonight. Okay, we're at the 3-3 mark, so I want you to just, wherever you are, I want you to sit straight up, allowing your diaphragm to be free, making sure that your chest is not sitting in your stomach, right? So that you can breathe deeply. And in this breath, what I'd like you to do is inhale and exhale out of your nose, being sure to breathe in all the way down to your navel. This is what we call belly breathing. And really try to practice it with us today. And if you're having a challenge, let us know and we will send you a video afterwards. But we want you to practice with us today. Okay? So now just through your nose, exhale all of the air from your lungs. Now breathe in slowly, allowing your belly to expand, and hold. 2, 3, 4. Exhale through your nose. Push in gently and hold. 2, 3, 4. Breathe in through your nose. Deep, deep, and hold. 2, 3, 4. Exhale through your nose. Pushing your stomach in gently and hold. 2, 3, 4. Breathe in through your nose. Now relax. Allow your shoulders to drop and hold. 2, 3, 4. Exhale. Your stomach goes in. Pushing in gently and hold. 2, 3, 4. Now exhale through your nose. Now, I want you to just feel your body relaxing, letting go, releasing any tension. Allow your mind to just scan your body and see if there's any place where you're holding resistance. And pay attention to that area tonight and breathe there. Imagine that you're sending oxygen to that area as we're talking. And at any time that you feel anxious or concerned, notice your breath. That's where your relief will be. It will be inside your breath. Okay, so again, welcome to Healing Waters. My name is Mushim Soot. I am the owner of Master Force and the founder of Master Force International Leadership Academy. And we have been bringing Ignite Your Soul Connection to you since 2011. And we started doing these in the winter time, and a few times we did them in the summer. So today we're bringing to you a conversation that nurtures and supports the expansion of the men in our midst. So I'm glad that you're here. So even though this conversation is for men, I'm welcoming the women who are here to listen and participate and really take ownership of what it means to nurture the men in our space. You will find a lot of good information throughout this week. Yesterday's conversation was with Timothy Glenn, and we spent almost 2 hours talking about Beyond the Parent Trap. We will be posting that recap soon, so you'll be able to see it if you missed it last night. And there was a lot of good information there. And we really want you to take time to go through it slowly. Take notes, get your journal, and then also share it. We want everyone to have information at their fingertips that they can use for their own growth and expansion during this time. Okay? All right. So enough of my talking. Right now, I want to introduce you to two of my favorite men today. Let me introduce you to Marshawn Frencha and Martin Grant. Hello, guys. How are you?
Hello,
Hi,
hello. Hi.
great.
You're great.
I
Very
am
cool.
good. I am good.
Okay, well, Marshawn, let's start with you. Why don't you introduce yourself to everyone and let them get a sense of who you are? And then after that, Martin, you can come in and introduce yourself.
Perfect. Okay, so hi, my name is Marshawn Frencha, like she said. I am the youngest Master Force coach.
Yes, you are.
I am the youngest. I got my life coach certification at 16 years old.
Yeah,
16 going on 17.
right.
Got my life coach certification then. My mother, she was certified before me through Mama Mook.
Mm-hmm.
Um, and yeah, I was also the project coordinator for a art studio and music planning program called the We Are Hip Hop Festival. And with that, we basically, it was a group of young people who came together to put together a festival of artists, graffiti dancers, graffiti artists, break dancers, all encompassing all the elements of hip hop, bringing the community together for one day and stuff like that. So yeah, and I recently just started my own little mentorship circle called Frencha Full Circle. So yeah, we'll be getting that started very soon.
And you'll tell us more about that as we go on in this conversation, because I definitely want you to give people, especially near the end, how they can participate in that. Okay.
Gotcha, gotcha.
Very cool. Okay. And Martin, come on, let us know about you. How are you?
I am great, and thank you for having us on the call on this program. Um, I am the author of an upcoming book, um, and uh, who am I? I could start by saying My name is Martin. I am a project manager and I've owned many businesses, and I have been both a millionaire and homeless. And all of those are not important. What's important is that I have taken on my life's vision,
Mm-hmm.
which is to cause in the world that we transform and we change and we choose to be the powerful people that we are here to be, that we chose to come and be and be, and really share the gifts that we have that we sometimes lock away because we forget,
Mm-hmm.
and just expose us to that. So who I am is really a person that appreciates the God in every one of us,
Okay.
and so reflect on myself and appreciate who I am.
Very cool. I love that. Yes. And that's really awesome because we do forget who we are. I know part of the plan as we travel through the birth canal, part of that is for us to forget who we are. But
Mhm.
in this process, we have to rediscover ourselves, right?
Absolutely.
We have to dig in and actually recreate ourselves. Okay, so now let us have this conversation tonight where we're looking at what it means to have empowering emotions. Now, I would like both of you to, just say in your own words and, whatever experience you have to bring with that, what would you say when we mean, how would you explain what we mean by empowered emotions?
Who's going first? Is it me?
Either one of
Either
you.
one.
Yeah. What are empowered emotions?
So I'd
Oh,
like to go ahead, Risha.
oh no, no, no. Go
Risha.
ahead. Go ahead. Go ahead.
Yeah, so I remember back when I was in my 20s, and I was hanging out with some of my friends who had children. And I didn't have children at that point in time. And I would take the young boys that they had, sometimes, 8 or 10 years old. Some of my friends were older. And I remember one incident where I took a cousin and a friend to the beach, and they were playing in the sand, having a great time. And when it was done, I was with a friend of mine, a female. When they were done, I had them turn around and start dusting themselves off. And the reaction that the young lady had was, they can't really do that. And I thought about it and I said, in my mind, they were supporting each other in making sure that we were both groomed.
Hmm.
But another person had the perspective of, men aren't supposed to touch each other like that. They're not supposed to express. And we teach we were teaching these kids, how to not express themselves, how not to be whole and complete.
Mm.
So empowered emotions is for me is the ability to be both the male and the female side of us and
Mm,
own it completely. Being gentle and being strong all at the same time. Being gentle when it's necessary, being being strong when it is, being able to cry and being able to stand up and say, hey, never again. And the person hears it just by who you're being.
Yeah. Yeah.
yeah.
So the ability to have full expression of your emotions from the strong to the vulnerable. I love that. Marshawn, what would you add to that?
Um, for me, empowered emotions would be just having that inner faith, because to me faith is like the unknowing, just that unknowing that even though I don't know what's to happen or what to expect, that I trust in the process that everything will be in my favor and what I want to do. Being able to take yourself by the bootstraps and pull yourself out of whatever is faced against you, that adversity that we all happen to go through at times. um to me, it's also believing in yourself, trusting that inner intuition, trusting that voice in your head that is telling you what to do, what not to do, how to go about certain situations. Really having a clear grasp of self, what you want, who you want to be, like Martin said, what you will and will not tolerate. Um, Really trusting that no matter what happens to me, I will be okay in the end run.
Yeah, and it sounds really great, right? Like that sounds really great. And
Yeah.
when we look in society, that is not how men exist. And also, like Martin said, we're not teaching them to exist inside of that, knowing that they're going to be okay, and also knowing that being strong is not the only asset that you need to have to say that you are man. So I would like for both of you to think of a time, a situation when you were not empowered emotionally. What was that like for you? Have you ever dealt inside of the conversation of depression and sadness and unworthiness? And what is that like for you as a man?
I guess I will go. Um, it's so funny because I think it was about 2018, 2019. I experienced a depression, and it was due to my first heartbreak.
Mm.
Yeah,
Mhm.
but it was a very sad time in my life because I felt like I had lost a piece of myself, that this person had took something away from me. Um, it had just brought up emotions in me of past experiences where, because this is what I expected, this is what I'm used to having, so it's going to continue to happen to me. It was like a trickle down effect, and I kind of secluded myself from everyone. I was really like by myself, didn't really want to talk to anyone, because I felt like it happened to me, so I had to deal with it alone and figure it out for myself, and cried a lot. Shed a lot of tears. Um, yeah.
So let me ask you this. At that time, where you said you chose to be alone, but did you feel that there was someone you could have talked to that would have been able to support you had you shared?
Yes.
Okay, okay.
Yes. Down the line, I realized that my friends and my family, they were really instrumental in just letting me speak, get everything out that I needed to say. No matter how long I said it, no matter the repetitiveness of me bringing it up. Um, yeah, I really turned to my friends. I had also started seeing a therapist, but she helped me realize something really later on that was really instrumental in me, um not necessarily getting to myself, but adapting to a new reality and becoming new again.
Oh, that's wonderful. I know I love saying that heartbreak is part of the initiation process.
Yes.
Most of us don't realize that we're being initiated in a spiritual realm. You know, we think,
Mm-hmm.
oh, nothing bad is supposed to happen, and we label it bad, but it's not really bad. It's part of the expansion process of our heart chakra, right? So you
Yes.
break your heart, you almost don't even know your heart chakra exists.
Yes, and I think with that, one of the biggest things from from that experience and past experiences that I had always felt like someone was, it was like a take and pull, like someone was taking something from me and I was giving it away, and that I wasn't getting the love I want. But the biggest lesson of all that I realized was that the love that I want is within me, and that I am that that was my capability to love someone. So I'm always full of love, and it will never um it will never be an exchange of give and pull, because I feel like if you love someone, you'll do you'll do it because you love them, not expecting anything in return.
That's very powerful. So you went from being shut down, isolated, and heartbroken to actually taking time to speak with your friends, your family, and then, being willing to see a therapist and working through the pain that you were experiencing. And from that, you were able to realize that the real love is in me. And,
Yes.
and if I start from there, whatever is coming from someone else, cool or not cool, it doesn't matter. I'm still loved.
Yes.
So nothing is really ever really missing. And then what you're giving is the love that you have without expecting anything in return. That's, I don't know now. That's pretty deep for a 22-year-old.
Oh,
Right?
but and then also with that, it was also like you guys were talking about yesterday, the parent trap. And also like when you see certain things from your parents growing up, you kind of have to unpack that and forgive that part of yourself, and
Mm,
realizing that pattern that the first relationship that you're having is with your parents. And I was it gave me time to unpack things that I saw or things that I learned or behaviors that I picked on of how I should go about loving people,
yeah.
and really unpack that and try to change some of those behaviors.
That's bravo to you. I mean, that's moving into the realm of unconditional love that most of us don't experience until we start having children. You don't usually experience that, give and take freely, until you have to like give to your children, right? So that's pretty good. What about you, Martin? What?
I just want to say to Marshawn,
Yeah.
he's I'm much older than he is, in terms of human years.
Right.
Um, and it is, just to hear you speak and to think, given where you are now, when you're at my age,
Mm.
what's the difference in life it will be like? And you're awesome,
Oh, thank
awesome.
you, thank
you
you.
know and and that's really what empowers me, what turns me on to actually see that happen. And it can happen at any age. It can happen at
Hmm.
your age, and younger and older.
Hmm.
I as you asked the question, I have I look back and I can see there are many situations where I've been hurt, or I felt hurt.
Hmm.
And one of them that I'm going to speak to is, I was, my kids were at the university, and they were in school. They were in elementary school, and they were at the university doing the evening weekend program.
Mm-hmm.
And I was so proud of them. And they were graduating and they were on the stage. So I was like, you know, doing my normal thing. I was like, everybody stop on stage, let me take a picture. And I stopped and I took a picture. And the next thing I know is they told me I can't come back to the university because I put the kids at risk.
Oh,
And I'm like, put the kids at risk? Well, you had the kids all stand in one place and the stage could have fallen down. And so you no longer, you know, you're banned from the university.
wow.
And this is at a time when I was actually living in my car. So I was homeless
Mm.
and having to deal with that and look at now, how do I honor my kids and still be myself and, you know, do what they say?
Mm,
And there was no fight in me at that time. I just wanted to honor my kids.
yeah.
So the hurt was that I had to, for about 6 months, I had to show up and park a block and a half away and have them walk into the school. And then I'd come back and I'd park another block and a half away and wait for them to come back. And to me, it was like, God, I wasn't built for this. This is not what life should be like. This really, it stinks. It's, and what it also had to look at is the parent trap that just got spoken about. I had to look at that too. What is my relationship to authority? Because it took me a couple years to really realize that they had no authority to do that kind of stuff.
Mm, mm,
But I let them have the power because I felt powerless being homeless. And until I took back my power, there was no conversation with them. So, I'm saying that to say, hey, not because a situation looks disempowering means it has to be. It's really a choice.
Mm. Mm.
yeah, and it sounds like, and Martin, I want you to unpack this a little bit more. So it sounds like that inside of how you were viewing yourself, you
Hmm.
had made a connection to there's something wrong. There's something wrong because I'm homeless, right?
Yep.
So, and because I'm homeless,
I should not be respected.
I should not be respected,
Hmm.
or and I can't speak for myself.
Not
Right?
at all. No,
That
if I speak up, they're not going to listen to me anyway because I'm not worthy.
I'm not worthy. So you distinguish that for yourself because nobody ever told you that.
No, no.
Nobody ever said, "Oh, because you're homeless, you're not worthy. We can't respect you, and so don't you dare talk." No one said that to you.
Well, it actually, no one said that, but it was also, I had to own that it was part of my way of relating to homeless.
Yeah, good, very good.
You
Yes.
know, the way that I related to the homeless at that point in time is the way I related to myself. Like if you're not worthy, I don't need to talk to you. I'll
Mm-hmm.
give you a dollar here or there, but you're not really a true person.
Mm-hmm.
In our society, this nobody says it explicitly, and that's how we treat a lot of the people that are around us.
And that is really we lose so much resources inside of that. I was just looking today. I noticed that Ti is going to be teaching um
A
tra-
class at Clark and trap music at Clark Atlanta University.
exactly, right. And then people say to me, well, what are your credentials that you can be teaching people about emotions? I said, now, no one will ever ask T.I.,
Mm,
right?
Mm.
mm-mm,
Can you
mm-mm,
teach, first
mm.
of all? Are you able to teach? Just because you can make music does not necessarily mean you can teach, unless, of
Mhm,
course, you took some courses, or some people are natural teachers, right? We do know that.
mhm,
So, but people don't approach it like that because our value systems in this society says that your accomplishments, your material things, your credentials, your status, they make you who you are. And that's not true.
Yeah, it tells us or it informs us that this is who we should say we are.
Yeah.
And it's really a should
Yeah.
because um, you don't have to have credentials to do something. I've I've taught at the university level to people in the master's program, and I have a bachelor's.
Yeah.
mm.
I was
But
teaching on the college campus when I was 23. Okay, and I was actually delivering course materials and presentations to people who were going through their master's and doctor's program, and it was
Wow.
because of the experience that I was bringing. That's what actually cued my expertise, right?
I actually want to say it's more than just the experience. It's your way of being with
Yeah,
the experience. Like you own that experience.
yeah.
Many of us have all kinds of experience, and when we don't own that experience, we're less than that experience, or
Mm-hmm.
we're just on the surface of that experience, and we don't bring it to bear. Not that we can't, we don't bring it to bear, and when we bring it to bear, it impacts the community in ways that we have no way of understanding. And it's generational.
It's generational. And I believe this is where we begin to disempower our men. Because look at all of the stipulations inside of the Black community. Can you see the stereotypes and the stipulations we put on Black men before they can say that they matter?
Mm.
Can you? Can you see?
Absolutely, absolutely.
I was
You
saying
know,
about that. Mm-hmm.
there's a relationship that I have with someone that's in the church, and we the perspective is that you really need to understand the church as an entirety before you really can be fully understanding of who I am. And bravo to the church because God and creation and spirituality is it's all part of us. However, when we start putting blinders on putting those limitations and putting it between columns,
Mm-hmm.
we don't get to see the whole picture. We
Wow.
don't get to look back at our ancestry. We don't get to look back and see, hey, Christianity existed more than 2,000, 5,000 years ago. We
Mm-hmm.
don't get back to look and see what we call voodoo, quote unquote, takes care of community in ways
Mm.
that
Mhm.
modern day Christians don't.
Yeah.
I was just having a conversation with some
About that.
about these things. That was so funny.
Well, you gonna tell us more about it, or you just
Oh,
tell
I'm
us?
sitting waiting to hear about it.
Right.
we were just speaking on, we had just happened to be speaking on Beyonce and Solange, and um, he was saying how he was seeing some of the visuals of their videos, and he was saying how a lot of what they were doing, a lot of what they were talking about was demonic. Um, and recently in a song Beyonce released, she was talking about Yemoya and Oshun, and I was just telling him, I was like, when you were growing up, what were your ideas of what is the media has always taught you about voodoo, Santeria, Yoruba, that they're all evil and they're all they're all evil things, but who are the faces of these things? They're Black people. And I was just telling him, westernized media has always taught us to fear these things that are so sacred to where we come from, demonizing our culture so that we can conform to um, Christianity, Catholicism, things of that nature.
Mm-hmm.
So yeah.
Yeah, that's very good. That you know, inside of that conversation too, I think that church does play a role
Mm-hmm.
in men thinking that they have limited authority in their home because they choose not to participate in church.
Mm.
Can you see, Martin? Have you seen anything like that? Like, because if you look at the majority of people that go to churches, it's usually women and children.
Mm.
You,
And I have participated in the church,
yeah.
not to the degree that, some of the women and children, the women and children participate.
Hmm.
Um, and yes, but it's not just for men. It actually disempowers both the relationship between man and woman.
Yes, it
It
does, and the
is,
whole family. If you ask me, exactly.
Mm-hmm.
Yes.
yeah. There's value in church, there's value in community, and
Yes.
and um, there's also value outside the church.
Yeah.
And if you can't like hold it all inside the globe of it, inside the wholeness of it, then you miss out on a significant part of the whole. You
Yeah.
you know, church is an aspect of life. It's not all of life.
Hmm.
Breath is an aspect of life, but it's not all of you.
Hmm.
An arm is an aspect of you, but it's not your whole body.
Yeah.
So you've got to be able to hold the whole thing. And as you're able to hold the whole thing, then there's a value or an ability to go beyond just what you see and the wholeness of it.
So then, where would you say that men, in the scheme of their emotional intelligence, right? Where does that disempowering begin?
Um, I was raised in the Catholic religion, and in the Catholic religion, the priests are men,
Hmm.
and they're not supposed to have any relationship with women.
Hmm.
However, not all of the priests, but many of the priests end up having relationships, but they're never expressed. So a lot of the men know that the priests are involved in things that they're not supposed to do, but because they're authorities, they don't say anything. So they're
Mm.
disempowered because there's an authority figure that's speaking that's inauthentic. And they've also got relationships with women where they're directing them what to do, and that the women are not relating to the men because the men are thinking these guys are like a little bit less than what they say they're supposed to be. So there's a whole lot of inauthenticity in the whole relationship,
Mm.
and men don't want to step up and say, hey, this whole thing's not working because the authorities figure is on one side is saying, and the person they love is on the other side, and they're in the middle being squashed because you can't clash with both. You you can't get a value from both
Yeah.
if you're clashing with both.
That reminds me, I can't think of the guy's name. Do you remember recently, I believe it was a NFL spokesperson that said that he did not feel comfortable talking about black issues in doing the broadcast that he was on, because he didn't want to, intimidate anybody or make anyone feel uncomfortable. And then people kind of came after him about that, like, yeah, you got to stand up. But you just gave a very good example of how growing up inside of a place where people are inauthentic, right? They're
Mm-hmm.
completely out of integrity. They're authority figures, but nobody's calling them to the mat. Nobody's holding them accountable. So
No,
you're
because
learning. Yeah,
they've written the rules.
they've written the
They've
rules.
written the rules, and sometimes we say rules are made to be broken, but not the ones I wrote.
Yeah. And and
Uh,
and you get ostracized though.
mhm.
You learn real early, if you speak out, someone is going to, push you in the corner. They might even take you out. I mean, I don't know.
Mm.
But
They've taken out people before.
that
you know, the Crusades were taking out a lot of folks
yes, yes,
because this is how I'm going to teach you how to learn what I want you to learn, and it's called the Crusades.
yeah,
And after a while, you start going, okay, I will listen to what you have to say, and after you follow it for a while, you start becoming that.
yeah.
But
And you
it's
start
deep
doing,
inside.
yeah, you start doing what you're told.
Right, but deep
Yeah.
inside of you, there's something that's off.
Yeah,
And that's what slavery was. So we had Kunta Kinte who would step up and say, cut off my, when he wouldn't say cut off my foot, but they cut it off and he still kept running
hmm,
because he know deep inside that he had a choice.
yeah. So what would you say, Marshawn, would be, where do you see you were disempowered? Can you see where you took that on growing up in something that you saw?
Um, I would say that growing up, because growing up for me, I was always in um female led settings. Um, for me, it started in school. It started in school for me. Um, especially being very, what's the word for it? Being very flamboyant, high voice, high voice. It was more for me. I think growing up, we were around the men and boys that I grew up with. We were always taught to not be so flamboyant. You have to hide that part of yourself.
Mm,
If you're that way, you're not gonna fit in. So now, because you don't fit in, we're gonna, like you said, we're gonna put you in a corner. We're gonna bully you. We're gonna always make it apparent that you are the odd man out the group.
hmm,
Um, and then going into high school, I remember when I was doing my project manager um, thing for the summer, I was really the only I was really the only lead male, and there were females around me, so they were always, whenever it would be a situation, my thoughts were always kind of like put on the back burner um, over what they wanted to do. So yeah, for me, it started in school. It started by, then you have the female students, they're picking on you because you're flamboyant. Even though most of them are your friends, they're disempowering you because they're like, oh, why can't you be like them? You want to be with us all the time. Why can't you be like the rest of them? And it's like, it's not in me to be that way. And so you kind of like recluse and don't you kind of are forced to um isolate that part of yourself.
yeah. And then the more you isolate yourself, it goes into what Brene Brown talks about as shame. Yeah.
There is a shame with it. It's like, why can't I'm trying that? And that was one of the battles with me. It's like, why can't I be like the rest of the boys in my class? Why can't I, just turn it off when I get to school, and then turn it on when I get home or around my family members?
But it wasn't why can't I? It was all well. It was probably why can't I? But it was also like, what's wrong with me that I can't?
Yes,
You know,
yes, that was it too. Yeah.
like there has to be something wrong because I'm not like that, and probably you don't want to be like that. But it's like, why am I not like that? Like,
Exactly. Yep.
yeah,
Mhm.
that's very cool.
And,
So,
you know, I,
yeah,
I,
go
I
ahead.
want to just piggybacking on what was just said,
Yeah.
I want to also, in situations like that, I have to look at the responsibility I've had as a man, as a boy,
Mm-hmm.
because in situations where women were dominating and domineering, it wasn't always just that they wanted to be domineering. They didn't have any experience with the men being powerful around them.
Mm.
Mm.
So if they didn't have the experience, and I'm expecting them to react in a certain way or react in a way that supports the power that we are as men are powerful, right?
Mhm.
in the man's way, and women are powerful in the woman's way.
Yeah.
And because they didn't have the experience, um, a lot of times it showed up as like, I think it shows up on their side like we're blaming them for not doing something. And I think there's an ownership here that just simply like not having the experience or not taking the time, not knowing to take the time to really have that experience, allowing themselves to have that experience, and allowing ourselves to be vulnerable and have the experience of just being there with the woman and speaking ourselves. You know, those two things would tremendously expand, the relationship within our communities between men and women.
That again, it would really be great if we could get there just by saying it, right?
Mm-hmm.
Mhm.
it it seems like we become who we are from how we're treated in the environment, right? The environment that we grew up in, or the environment that we're exposed to when we go to school or in the community at large. However, the piece that sound like it's missing is cultivating, right?
Mm-hmm.
Who teaches us that we need to cultivate ourselves emotionally?
Well, this is what this conversation is. It's
What this
really
conversation
the
is.
conversation of culture,
Yeah,
cultivating.
yeah,
Mhm.
yeah,
Babies are born, but they're not born in 9 months, and for 9 months.
yeah.
And this conversation is a conversation of cultivating. So
Yes,
we're
it is.
we're no, we're birthing and adding to the growth of the baby.
Yeah, and the reason that I thought you two would really be great inside of this conversation is because you have both extremes, right? You have the youth, you have the elder, but also, you have the experience of being right now in the world as it is today, where we are all birthing a new paradigm.
Hmm.
I mean,
Hmm.
everything is going to be completely new.
Mhm.
Really, we can see it coming, right?
I definitely can see it coming.
Right. So then what would you say to men who experience themselves as not being powerful emotionally, or not having emotional intelligence to be able to live the life that they want to live, or be in relationships the way that they want to be in relationships, or even create the dreams that they want to create? What are some of the things that they can cultivate or seek to cultivate within themselves to get them on that path?
You want to go first,
What would
Reject?
you say?
Marty, you can go first.
You know,
Martin,
um,
Marshawn, was that too much?
no, no, no,
No,
no,
not.
no, no, not at all. You know, um, no man is an island. And even an island has a foundation that we don't see that's
Oh,
underneath.
okay.
So to assume that the island is going to feed everything it needs from the top of what, based on what we
Did my
see.
internet go out again? Can
No,
you
we can
guys
hear
hear
you.
me?
I can hear you.
Yeah, we can hear you. So to assume,
Vicky, can you hear me?
I'm going to continue until Musham Suit comes back. So to assume that what we see on the surface is everything that's available to us is a path that doesn't allow us to really experience the whole thing. It's a path that ignores that we're way bigger than just the top of the iceberg or the island that we see on the top, that there's a foundation that's already there. And for those who know that there's a foundation there, then they can relate to other people.
I don't think the guys can hear me. Can you hear me, Martin or Marshawn?
I can hear you.
I can hear you. Your internet just came back.
So I don't. I'm not getting anything from anyone. I can't hear anyone, Vicky.
You may need to log off and come back in. It's
Can you
you're
hear
going
me?
in and out.
Can
I can hear you, Vicky.
Can everybody else hear me?
I can hear you.
Okay.
Yes.
Yeah, it might be her internet. She just froze up. So go ahead, Martin. Can continue.
Yeah. So
This is Mercury
when
retrograde at its
when I,
finest. Can you see what's going on?
yes. So so I would
I think I just
say
tried to come
that
in
the
on my
one
phone.
of the most important things is us knowing that we're not an island to ourselves, is really reaching out to others and getting coaching, getting mentorship, getting support. No, speaking to people who you admire and look at, or even have aspects of areas that you want to impact that you may not have a clue on how to impact, or even if you have a clue, it's just not moving as fast as you want to have it impacted. So I would say that's one area that you can look at. So yes, mentorship would be one. And then the other thing is that we all know what we need. Deep down inside, we know, we have the intuition and we know what we need. We just don't trust it sometimes. And
That
as
is
we
true.
start trusting our intuition, just trusting that um, the universe, the spirit, God, whatever you call it, God, call him, her, it, that it really takes care of everyone because we're all part of it. And that anything that you take on is really an opportunity for growth and an opportunity to learn the lessons that we came here spiritually to experience. We're spiritual beings having a human experience.
Yeah, that's really
Trust the
great.
spirit.
I know that I missed something. We're doing a conference doing Mercury retrograde.
And it
So
just started. Yep.
it started on the 17th and 18th. So we're going to include it inside of this and realize that just what you were saying, Martin, everything, right? We're all taken care of, including all of that energy that's, missing us right now.
Yeah, there's nothing wrong here.
Nothing wrong.
Mercury is doing its thing, and we're doing our thing. And sometimes it overlaps and something gets hidden, but there's nothing wrong.
Yeah.
In relationships, the male does this thing, the female do their thing. Sometimes they overlap, and sometimes it gets no uh, um, zeroed out. There's nothing wrong. It's an experience of learning.
Well, yeah, but again, inside of being empowered, we were looking at what needs to be cultivated, and I heard you
Hmm.
speaking to some of that, and I heard you speak to our being spiritual and being present to our intuition, but we have to assume, right,
Hmm.
or even put in a context that everyone is not exposed to you. It drives me crazy when people go, they don't have common sense. Well, there's all of us were raised in
Hmm.
different households, so
Hmm.
what's common to you is not going to be common to me. So that's judgment right there, right? So if we're really helping people to cultivate, we want to cultivate from a place that says they're starting from nothing. So if they're starting for nothing, what do we put in? Where do we support them so that they can cultivate?
One of the things I spoke to while you were off is mentorship.
Yeah.
It's really looking at the support mechanism for with people who have experience and expertise in being able to let you see the like the island, the foundation of the island that's under the water that you don't normally see,
Mm-hmm.
and show how strong it is and how much of a foundation there is, so that when you look at the island, you say, "Hey, it's a rock. It's not moving anywhere. I'm a
Right.
rock. I'm not moving anywhere. So I can actually take on something that I intuitively know to be important and move forward from it."
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. What do you add to that, Marshawn?
I would agree about, and let me make sure I understand the question. We're talking about cultivating our power, cultivating a force so that we can go about moving throughout our life and
Yeah, and
experiences.
helping people to so we're saying to empower your emotions.
And I got that.
Yeah.
Mentor. So I would agree with Martin. Um, as far as being young, growing up, mentorship. I there were elders, there were people around me that surrounded me that really sat down with me and pushed me to really I for me, you need a support system that's going to be able to let you freely be yourself and grow into that force, that power that you want to be. Um, as far as moving through life, mentorship, I also would say, um, if you don't have friends, um, go about speaking to people that you look up to. Um, I know everyone doesn't have friends, family members, but I figured that if you ask the question, if you speak it out, it will appear itself. Um,
I know you it's almost like I'm careful of that too because I live very magically too, right? Like
yeah,
I can speak things into existence, but that comes from cultivation too.
yeah.
Hmm.
Like there was a time when
Mhm.
I couldn't do that because I hadn't developed that power within myself to do it. So I where I speak from, I like to work with people who have to create from nothing, and because that's where I've always had to create. I've always had to create from nothing. And it seems like, even when you started off, you said, I know how to pull myself up by my bootstraps. Well, what if you have no boots?
Let me. Oh, okay. I got you. I got you. Okay. So, because I was trying to sit and really, I think about understand the question before I gave an answer.
Yeah, yeah, yeah.
Um, but For me, if we're speaking from starting from nothing,
Mm-hmm.
I would say you have to be open to changing your mindset and um be open to doing things differently. Because I feel like growing up, for me, there were a lot of young men who wanted to be in a position of power, wanted to um, do things, but they really weren't ready to strip away certain mindsets to go into that
Mm-hmm.
power. For me, growing up, um, it was all of, and also learning to be okay with um sometimes standing alone, because I feel like another thing that I saw was that the men, we were afraid to be seen as we were afraid to be alone or independent or be isolated, because we were in a fight to be accepted. And I feel like I feel like once you let go of the idea of wanting to be accepted and just being truly be able to accept and be able to change that mindset and being truly who you are, um, you will go into that power. Because I feel like for me, and when I tell other people, what I will tell other people is that sometimes you just stand alone, um, not willing to be right, and yeah, you have to stand alone, stand in a vision, and surround yourself with people who are going to support that vision.
Yeah.
That's what I would say. That's one. As far as relationships, for men, I would say that um, you have to really you have to be willing to do the work to do that relationship inventory and really think about who am I? I feel like a lot of times, men and women alike, we're trying to think about what did this person do in the relationship to cause the breakdown, and we're not doing enough of inner work, really working on and I recommended this to someone who was in the same position in me, and I told them for 30 days I want you to write down who am I, who am I. 30 days, just write down who am I today, not who you want to be, but who am I. And then from there we can work into who you want to become and what you want to cultivate. And really, and I also want to say, be okay with all aspects who you are. The crazy, I feel like a lot of times we're so quick we want to be something so great that we're quick to denounce the so-called bad parts of who we are, but they are a part of you, and they are what make you who you are, and that's okay.
That's powerful. And thank you. And I want you to know that you are doing great. And I am so excited to have you on this platform, because this also is you being present to cultivating yourself in a conversation of leadership. In what you're exhibiting and what you're displaying to everyone is the courage that you have to put yourself out there. And that's what people need to see. We have to be willing to show up, stand alone, be different, try something new. Let me expand my mind so that I can see what this is, instead of deciding, oh, I don't like it before I do it. So, I
And
just
really
think,
letting
yeah.
go and really letting go of the fear. um Really, I love when Martin first started speaking about being homeless, and how it really, for me, it really starts in the mind, because when my parents got divorced, me and my sister, me and my dad, we were homeless. I remember this house before it got rebuilt, me, my sister, and my dad, we all shared a room together.
Yeah.
And we all bathed out of a bucket.
Yeah.
And even though, because I remember about a year later in the 5th grade, we had someone talking about what is homelessness, and I'm listening. And I'm like, that is what homeless is, and I just feel, and it really starts in the mind, because when me and my sister were growing up, we never felt homeless.
No, you were having an adventure.
Yeah, we felt at home. Yeah.
Yeah.
We never really being able to let go of those expectations that that the society has put on us on what we should be, and not who we truly are.
Yeah. What were you saying, Martin?
Two things. The first thing is mentorship. I spoke about mentorship.
Yeah.
And mentorship is really two ways. I'm sitting and I'm listening to this youth, and he's really mentoring me. And in society, most of us think it's one way.
Yes.
It really is both ways. Like the mentor and the mentee is one and the same.
Yes.
And they're both distinct.
Yes.
And so I really want to acknowledge and appreciate, the gift you are in this conversation. Awesome.
Yeah.
I try.
No, Yoga said no, try, do.
That's another thing too, that we got to start watching our conversation.
Okay.
The words that we speak create the world around us that we have.
Yes.
And an example being that you're so powerful in the way that you're speaking, and then you're saying, "I try."
Well, I say that
No, hold on. No, just be with it for a minute and listen. When you say "I try," you're not acknowledging that you're already doing it.
You are doing it.
You're already where you are, and then you're saying "I'm not." So, you're basically saying that to your spirit, that you're generating, where you're generating yourself, and you're saying to your spirit, well, I don't really believe what you're actually doing. And if we extend it, and when we extend it to our community, and we look at the words that we say, and start really being aware of some of the words that we say, and we let go of some of the words, it changes our whole community. It changes our perspective. When we say our men are shit, that's what we're asking our men to live into. When we say women are bees, that's what we're asking our women to live into. And as we change those words, and our men are powerful, and our women are beautiful and strong and healthy and awesome. That's the community that we generate. That's the community we want to live. That's the community I want to live into. And I would assert that's the community we all want to live into.
Yeah, and that's what we're really seeking in ourselves, right? I love that, Martin, because the words that we say actually do create our experience, right? So when we take ownership and being responsible for how we're speaking, we actually get to be empowered in that moment. So, thank you, Marshawn, for getting that communication, because literally you are doing this.
Not just doing it, he's being it.
He's being this.
He's being it. And in the next breath, he's not acknowledging and appreciating it. You know what? Somebody said to me sometime, and it was an older guy. He said, how'd it go? He said, um, I appreciate what you do for such and such. And I said, oh, it's no problem, not a big deal. No, what he said was, hold on a second. I said, I appreciate you for what I see you being.
Mm-hmm.
This is not about you. This is about me.
Mm.
And when you don't accept what I'm saying, you're basically saying, I don't know what I'm talking about.
Wow.
Oh.
So when I appreciate you and you say thank you, you're telling me you're acknowledging me.
That's powerful.
It's not about you. You're acknowledging me.
Mm-hmm.
So let's acknowledge the men around us, acknowledge the women around us,
Mm-hmm. Yeah,
just because.
just because. Yeah, that's probably one of my favorite things to do. I've been accused of being a little Pollyannish, but hey, that's
Oh
that's
well.
yeah. And then I get to have great people around me. So guess what? Whoa.
Be Pollyanny and have great people around you. Hey, I'll
So
take that one.
I'll take that one exactly. So now, what I want to do is be able to share with people who are listening, any resources, any books. What would you recommend for them inside of this conversation of empowering emotions? What are some of the things that you would recommend that they could do to cultivate for themselves? What would you suggest?
I would say one of the most important things to take on is meditation.
Yeah.
Meditation allows you to be in touch with you. We don't spend a lot of time with ourselves.
Mm-hmm.
And to the degree that we can spend time with ourselves is the degree that we can spend time with other people.
Yeah.
When you can sit for 5 minutes or 10 minutes or half an hour just being with yourself and loving yourself,
Mm-hmm.
God, you you step out of there and you love everybody.
Yeah.
You know, men men have estrogen and they have testosterone.
Mm-hmm.
They have both. So
Yeah.
we're both male and female at the same time.
Mm-hmm. Or the
And
energy,
to
yeah, right. Mm-hmm.
and to the degree that we own both of them, we can own everything.
Mm.
Um, so I would recommend meditation. I started an organization called the Mastery at Generating Greatness in Community,
Mm-hmm.
and it's a network. We don't have a website up as yet, but Mastery, the name is called Magic, Maggic, Mastery at Generating Greatness in Community
Okay.
.net. That's the website. It'll be up soon. And my email is martin at magic.net. That's magic with two G's.
Cool.
Or info at magic.net if that's easier to get to. And if there's any kinds of conversations you want to have where you are out to empower yourself to take on your vision, I would love to have that conversation with you and support you because the empowerment of community is the empowerment starts at the empowerment of the individual.
Mm-hmm.
Mm.
What about you? What about you, Marshawn? You have any resources or any books or materials you would like to be able to share?
Um, I would definitely agree. meditation, whatever that looks like to you. Um, I would also recommend just really, truly spending time with yourself, being able to really sit in the energy that you hold. Because I feel like a lot of times we're going into the world, we're taking on so many people's energies, and we're not really. I was just talking to someone about this. No one is really sitting with themselves, really understanding how they operate going out into the world, or how they are dealing with certain situations. And that could be for me, it was really like disconnecting from social media, um, sitting in my room, taking myself to the movies, um, doing activities that really push me to be with myself. Um, One book that I would recommend that helped, two books that I would recommend that helped me was The Battlefield of the Mind by
Mm.
Joyce Mayer,
Okay.
and then Acts of Faith, Daily Meditations for People of Color by Iyanla Vanzant. Those two books tremendously um, helped me to really, like you said, cultivate my energy, um, really disconnect certain ideas that I have about myself going into the world. And also, like Martin said, really sitting with, I think a lot of times men are afraid to really delve into that feminine energy. We've been taught that something about having feminine energy as a man makes us less than, or it makes us weak in per se. And I find myself finding more power just from looking at women in media and reading about powerful women. And there's just such a power about that, that you can take on your male and your female um, energy, and really going out into the world and expressing that to people, letting go of that, and also I would tell people to really sit and meditate and ask to let go of that fear that you have about truly um, being yourself, because that fear is, like someone said, about the corona. It's almost like you had the fear before going into it, and when you go back out into the world with it, you're taking that fear with you.
Right.
So you're opening yourself for any energy like that to happen and come into your life. Um, and also really journaling helped me as well. Really writing down how I feel, what I want to do, who I want to become. um, and another activity I would recommend is a vision board. Really um, sitting down, writing. I would first write down a list of what you want to accomplish, who you want to be, um, how do you need to get there. Um, Also for me, it was some things I didn't know how I was going to do it, but I wrote the question, set the intention of, like, even if I don't know how it's going to get done, it will make a way, that it will manifest itself before me, for me to make it happen. um and yeah, just really delving into self, letting go of the expectations, the fear that has been, because I feel like a lot of the fear comes from the expectation, and the expectation is the fear that's this debilitating
It's
us
like a
into.
vicious circle.
Yes, yes.
Yeah, yeah, yeah. I'm
So
glad you said that. One of the things I remember being 13, 14 years old, and I loved reading, and I had this idea that I wanted to go to college. However, my grandmother had raised five of us, and out of the five, I was the youngest, and I watched as the other four in front of me that no one made it through high school. So I said, well, I have to not go to high school because there's something wrong with high school. You know, there's nothing going on in high school. So I created going over to the University of Chicago campus at the Midway Plazas. I used to go over there and do my homework and pretend that I was in college. You know, this was before I knew about the power of visualization. This was my intuition just saying, I'm going to college one day, And sure enough, when it came time for me to go to get through high school and graduate, it was one of the teachers that said, we got to get you out of Chicago. And they found a college and helped me take my ACT, and the security guards bought the luggage, and the office clerk bought my airline ticket, and my family was looking at me like, well, where you going? I'm going to college. And no one in my family had been involved with any of it, right? And I went to college. And, of course, when that was happening, I didn't think back to when I was sitting on that campus, right? It wasn't until later till I realized that that's how it happens. And that's what I mean by thinking magically. I had been studying the power of the brain, but then when you start making it work in your life, it looks different and it feels great, right?
Yes, it does.
That is great.
Hey,
go ahead.
I want to say something in regards to something's present for me that, a lot of times we think that the experience that we have is unique to ourselves.
Mm-hmm.
As a man, that this experience is unique to myself because it's happening to me, right? And in the perspective of Martin, this body called Martin, it's absolutely true. However, there's such a gap between Marshawn and I. There's an age gap.
Yeah.
He in his some of his younger years, it was just his dad and his family, right?
Yeah.
And I grew up in a household that had both parents that were always around. They've been together for over 60 years, right?
Mm-hmm.
And we both still struggle with the issues that come up as being men,
Yeah.
as being a human being. So it's not that it's unique to one of us. It is part of life.
Yeah.
This is what life brings to us, to be the best and the best self that we can be.
That's great.
And without the challenges, I call it challenges, not struggles, because I really start looking at the words that I use.
Mm-hmm.
And challenge is something that, you take on a challenge, it's something that it causes you to stretch, to get beyond. And a struggle is like, God, I'm beat up.
Mm-hmm.
It's no different, but it's a different perspective. And you take on a whole different attitude when you take it on. So, no, in watching my words and also really looking at, the where Marshawn is,
Mm-hmm.
and just I don't think he has a clue on how much training he's had at this point in time. I don't know that he does. He knows it, and I really have to look at, if my younger self had had his age, had that level of training, the community around me would totally be
Transformed.
transformed.
Yeah. Well,
So
that's the idea. That's very true. Yeah.
Yeah, so I'm looking at it and I'm saying, hey, look, guys, this is not an individual thing. This
Mhm.
is not something you can't get through. I was, with where Marshawn is right now, you know, I was there at some point in time, but not at his age.
Yeah.
Was always looking, but not as his age. And time compresses and impacts compresses. So it
Mhm.
doesn't matter how old you are or how young you are, just taking on, like, really having a fantastic life, having the life that you deserve, that I deserve,
Yeah.
that you deserve,
That's
you
exactly
know,
right.
and just saying it. Just start by saying it. I deserve a quality life that I see.
Mhm.
Like, just start saying that. Take it on. Just say it for a while and
Mhm.
see the difference that it makes.
That's
And
great.
also, I would want to say for men, especially coming from the South Side of Chicago, I think a lot of times, at least from my eyes, there it's always been a judgment on. I think in our eyes, we've like instilled that fear into young men that the dreams that they have are not possible.
Mm.
Um, we place judgment on their dreams, and we push this idea that you can't that your dream is too high. You can't push for that dream because it's not achievable. But and
Mhm.
I feel like for me, we have to push them to reach the impossible, um, to letting them know that their dream is achievable, not necessarily doubting the vision that they do have. So yeah, that's what I would say too. I feel like a lot of times, from my eyes, it's all a lot of people. Some men are afraid to go after their dreams because they've been taught that if I do share my dreams or if I do tell my vision, that it's not I won't get the support that I need to reach that dream.
When you were talking, it reminded me, I don't know if you remember, but you know how we study Dr. Pukram's work? I think it's in session 15. You all guys, yeah, and we're,
Okay.
yeah, the seven circuits of the brain, right?
Mm-hmm.
Mhm.
So our educational system really does keep people in those lower levels of the brain, right? So no
Mhm.
one, when you talk about realize, because I'm so with you, inside of us there's something pushing us and prompting us to move and expand and to grow and to believe in yourself. And then on the other side there's someone that say, oh no, you can't do that, or who do you think you are? And that's the part that we have to cultivate to get beyond that.
Yeah.
And we also have to own that, you know, Black Wall Street didn't just happen.
Yeah.
Black Wall Street existed and it was powerful.
Yeah.
And
Yeah.
we're capable of doing it. We forgot and we gave up on it.
Right.
We're capable of doing it. I want to share two experiences that I had. When I was had my construction company in the west side of Chicago, and we were rehabbing houses and apartment buildings. I used to use some of the people that were in gangs and were just hanging out because they had nothing else to do. And I trained them in plumbing and electrical work and drywall and stuff like that. And some of those people were on drugs. And I remember
Mm.
one person disappearing for about a week and coming back to me and saying, hey, I can't work for you anymore because I'm going to put myself in rehab because
Wow.
you showed me that there's a way that things can be done,
Mm-hmm.
that just who you are showed me a possibility. You know, any one of us can do that. Any one of us can do that. And it doesn't have to be anything big. It's just we step up and be ourselves, be the authentic selves that we are.
Yeah.
And if I could share one more experience, I was 18 years old and running a nightclub with my brother. And my parents used to help us in the nightclub. And this is Toronto back in a long time ago.
Oh, this is Toronto, Canada.
Yeah, I'm Canadian.
Oh, oh,
I'm
okay.
I'm from Trinidad also,
Oh,
and my kids
okay.
are American. So
Do you speak French? I know Canada is a francophone country.
some provinces are francophone,
Okay, gotcha,
and
gotcha,
and I did speak French and Spanish, and I don't speak it much anymore because
gotcha.
whatever you don't practice,
It,
you start losing. And that's the same thing in terms of what we're doing here. If we don't practice this, we'll lose it. If we don't keep sharp on listening, like we'll lose the ability and we
mm-hmm.
have to start again. So the other experience I wanted to share is that in that nightclub, we were, we were just teenagers. But
Right.
what we were doing is just enjoying ourselves. My brother was the best DJ, and people used to travel from as far as New York to come to Toronto on a
Oh,
weekly basis because he was that good. And back then there was a guy. I was the bouncer. Um, and it was that popular. People started breaking in to get in, and I stopped this group of people coming in, and there was the head of the gang was in the front, and I was speaking with him, and I basically told him he has to leave. You can't come in. You coming in through the back door. You got to go back through the back door. And he ended up leaving, and I didn't do it stupidly because I'm not just stupid. I don't, but the bottom line is my mother heard about it, and she found this guy and brought him into the kitchen and sat him down and talked to him for about an hour. Everybody's dancing, partying, having a good time, and she talked to him. No, I wasn't there. I was doing my thing. And I met him about 2 or 3 years later, and he was playing for, I think it was the Edmonton Raiders.
Oh, wow.
oh,
Now, this was the head of a gang, right? And he was playing professional football
Wow.
wow.
because somebody like listened to him as his potential and spoke to him with respect
Mm.
and asked him to speak to and relate to others people as respect and took the time. You know, as men, we can have those conversations.
Mm-hmm.
As women, we can do that too.
Oh yes, it is possible. That story, that same thing happened to a teacher of mine in grammar school. She had a similar experience with a young woman,
Mhm.
and she ended up being the first cycle winner of America's Next Top Model.
Wow.
Yeah, yeah. And all it takes is a conversation, right? But
Mm-hmm.
not just any conversation. It's got to be like a heart to heart
Yeah.
committed conversation.
Mm-hmm.
Like like you get to the point where you say, enough of this crap. I'm bigger than this. You're bigger than this. And let's have that conversation and let me remind you who you are. Because in reminding you who you are, I remind me of who I am.
Mm.
Yeah, that's it. That's exactly right. And thank you, Martin, for, all of your stories, both of you. And, when you were saying that, all I could think of is if we could just, each one of us, just get one, right? Just
Mhm.
have one empowering conversation and really have people get present to who they are in our listening. Like we can provide that. That's such a generous offering.
We have no clue who people are. We
Yeah.
have no friggin' clue, excuse my language, but we have no clue.
Yeah.
I've worked with people who were worked with the Rockefellers,
Mhm.
who were essentially worked on billion-dollar projects.
Mhm.
Mm.
But you would sit with somebody and say, "Oh, they said they're homeless," and you go, "Okay, you have no clue who people are."
Mhm. Well, in
So,
my book, I write the homeless people as the heroes. So,
yeah,
I've cultivated myself to the point that I can hear greatness even from the 2-year-old who's talking to me. They
yeah,
can
and,
hear.
and I'm saying that not personally. I'm saying that to really to the people who are listening to this, that
Yeah.
you really have no clue on who people are, and that includes yourself.
Yeah.
You don't give yourself the credit that you deserve.
Mhm.
And stepping into that, you'll transform a community in a
Yeah.
heartbeat.
Yeah. Thank you. Thank you, Martin. People, and I hope you guys are hearing that. I did want to add a couple of more references for those of you who are listening. One of my favorite books for cultivating inside of yourself and strengthening yourself is called The Power of Your Subconscious Mind by Joseph Murphy. I first read that book when I was 17, and the doctor said that I would probably never have use of my right leg again. I fell through the bleachers at a
Mm.
football game.
Mm,
And one of my high school teachers brought me that book, and 3 days later, I was able to go home, even though I had to wear a body cast for a little while. Uh, I still was able to go home and still was able to graduate with my class from high school that year. So I highly recommend. I used to give that book away every year until I realized people weren't reading it.
Mm.
And then I realized that, I took that book serious because I was laying in traction for 3 months, right? I wanted to get up out of that bed. So it was, and I still read that book every year. It's one of my, and I'm talking about years, 40 years later, I'm still reading that book and still being inspired by it. So again, it's The Power of Your Subconscious Mind by Dr. Joseph Murphy. The other book, one of my favorites, is The Biology of Belief by Dr. Bruce Lipton. And he literally did the science behind how I was able to visualize three little black men, or three, no, green, they were green. I would now use black men, but they were green then, three little green men that knit my femur bone back together.
mm,
Mm.
Because your imagination and affirmations are the things that could change your whole gene structure.
yeah,
You change your genes, your gene, with affirmations and visualization through the power of your imagination. So that's in The Biology of Belief by Dr. Bruce Lipton. And then the third one is You Can Heal Your Body by Louise Hay, which points to the metaphysical and emotional connections between illness and symptoms in your body, and probably some of those suppressed anger and pain that you haven't let go of, and they take place in your body and become part of a process of us letting go. So they actually trigger us to let go,
Mm.
but because we don't let go, they become dis-ease or illness. So again, the name of that book is You Can Heal Your Life by Louise Hay, and it really helps you to hone into your emotions and see where they have triggered um, pain or disease in your body. So those are the three, and I just wanted to share those with you because this conversation is inside of creating healing waters for men. So we're giving you, the things that we know, and even a conversation to let you know that it's safe for you to heal, and it doesn't mean that anything's wrong. There's nothing wrong, right?
And to piggyback on the second book, I really the book that I mentioned, Acts of Faith, they have daily. They're 360. It gives you an affirmation for each day out of the year, and with that affirmation, there are many journal prompts
Oh,
that you can do to
mhm.
go with that affirmation.
Very
So
good.
yeah, I just wanted to piggyback on that as well.
Thank you. Thank you. What were you going to say, Martin? Were you going to say something too?
I'm going to add that there's no excuse if you don't have time to read, because I don't read the books as much as I used to, well, as I used to. I
Yeah.
listen to tapes.
Yeah.
You can get most of these books on tape
Yes, you can.
and listen to them in your car. Listen to them when you're walking, running, or whatever you're doing. Just
And they're really cheap,
the
especially on Audible. I think some of these books they could be $8 to $10
Mhm.
just for the audio version of it.
And some of them are free on
and
YouTube.
Yeah, that too.
yeah, yeah.
Mhm.
You know, there's a thing called ownership that's really, really powerful. It's really taking responsibility for your life as it is. And I said I was homeless at one point in time. And I actually, after it was all done, I took responsibility for it and saw that I actually caused myself to be homeless. I
Yeah.
actually spoke myself into homelessness. At
Mhm.
one
Ooh.
point in time, I started going, you know, I wonder what it would be like to be homeless. I wonder what it, and after a while of wondering, no, the universe gave me what a taste of what it would be like to be homeless. And on the other side of that, after I got frustrated with being homeless and I said, no, I don't want that anymore, I started manifesting what I wanted as a job and
Yeah.
the area I wanted to be in. And after 10 years of not being in that area of work, I went back into that area of work and got more money than what I said I wanted to have.
Yeah.
Actually, no, the exact amount that I said I wanted to have.
Yeah.
And after 10 years, just put myself back into the driver's seat at a level that was higher than I was making before.
That's good.
So, there's no excuse to say I cannot. And
Mhm.
when you say I cannot, is you just being irresponsible. It's me being irresponsible.
Mhm.
Just say I can. And if you don't believe it, just keep saying it until you believe it.
So,
And
so for go ahead. Go. I'm sorry.
and go ahead.
I'm
When you
sorry.
say
It'll probably trigger you because I wanted to say for someone who's listening right now, if they needed assistance inside of dealing with any challenges that they're having with their emotions, what would you say to them right now? And Martin, I think you were starting to say some of that, but what specifically, what other thing would you say to them to have them shift?
really start using the words of the future that you want. No,
Mhm.
life is really, if life is a movie, right? If we look at another person and we say, okay, I saw when they were a baby, I saw when they were a teenager, I saw when they were 50, I saw when they were, and you know, put it all together. It's really a movie, a pictures all the way through, right?
Mhm.
Our ability to look at that movie and say, okay, I remember when they were 40 years old and I remember that time frame. We do that all the time. It's called memory.
Mhm.
Well, our life personally, not another person now, like look at yourself, myself. My life is a movie. And I know what I was like. Well, I have some aspects of what I was like as a baby when I was teenager, when I'm 30, 50, and I have some perspective of when I'm 90, what I'm going to be like, and 105. Well, to the degree that I look at 105 and say, "Oh, that's what I accomplished," I can actually take that movie and say, okay, let me start at 105 and live it now.
Mm.
Okay, I start at 95 and live it now. And I just start being that person that's 95, being that person that's 105, because it's a movie, right?
Mm-hmm.
It's a movie. I get to
But you would
choose.
be that. You would be that inside of what you've accomplished.
I would actually be that just because I saw that. If I can see something,
Mm-hmm.
I can accomplish it.
Yeah.
Every building that was built was seen first and then it was built.
Yeah.
So you see yourself as the completed building
Mm-hmm.
and then you live it
Yeah.
and you build it.
Yeah.
So you
That's
get to create yourself however you want to be.
yeah.
And
Yeah.
it has nothing to do with the past.
Nothing to do. I remember getting to 30 and thinking that I wasn't gonna live past 30. It didn't find out till later that people that grew up in the kind of environment that I did normally didn't live past 30, right? But
Hmm.
here I was 30 and I had already had, some accomplishment, but I realized I had not planned past the age 30.
Mm.
So like you said, Marshawn, I probably started doing vision boards to remind me of what future looked like because I had not planned anything past 30, and that is what drove me to begin to create Master Force and do more of that work because I realized that young people have to know that creation is juicy. you
Yeah,
know and
yeah,
you get to say what 105 looks like,
yeah.
you know
And you get to live it now.
and you get to live it now. Yeah,
Yeah.
and expand it inside of that. Very cool. Very cool. Marshawn, did you have we're coming to the end of our time, and I
Mhm.
just wanted to make sure that you've shared and said everything that you wanted to say inside of this empowered emotions conversation. So, any final words for you, Marshawn, and then you, Martin?
Let me make sure that we were still on the same question. The question was, if someone needed assistance,
Mm-hmm.
what would we recommend? I agree with everything that Marty said. Marty hit the nail on the coffin for me. Um, and
I'm
like
just
you,
learning from you, bud. You
and
are
like
my
you,
mentor.
Right.
and like you said, really sitting with yourself, having that clear vision, um speaking more towards, because I know in recent years a lot of young people have been bringing up the discussion of mental health, um what I can do to get to a good sense of mental health. And I would say is one, allowing yourself to, you have to focus on the hurt and you have to give yourself permission to sit and feel the hurt. And you have to trust your intuition that your soul can get you to that other side. And you have to be able to like let go of the ego. And for me, speaking for heartbreak, you have to let go of that question of why did it happen, what I could have done, because you start to understand that even when you do get the answer that you want, the ego is never going to be satisfied. So you have to sit in the hurt. I would say, like I said, get a good friend, confidant, therapist, someone that you can speak to. Um, and if you don't have that, I would say you have to turn to spirit, some form of spiritual connection, meditating, praying to God, um, something that is going to give you clarity to move beyond the hurt and the anger. And then just be gentle with yourself and what you think and how you approach things. Um, like I was saying, moving from moving from that idea of, oh, I need to get back to myself, you have to adopt and move into that space of a new reality. um
Mhm.
and yeah, just really journaling, doing things that make you feel good, and remembering to breathe through everything that you're going through. And also, I would say express gratitude for yourself, because throughout it all, you were there for yourself throughout the entire um you were there for yourself throughout the entire time that you were experiencing what you went through.
Yeah.
So yeah, those would be my final
That's really great.
sentiments.
And I want to just add to that, if you need to speak to anyone, you can actually call 773-969-6211 and leave a message. That's our voicemail at Masterforce. And
Mm.
our website is masterforceleadershipacademy.wordpress.com. We have a great deal of courses. Our favorite course is the life course, where you can learn how to deal with life inside of struggles and any kind of disappointment, because disappointment is a part of, and I'm like Martin, the challenges of life, right? They actually are there to expand us. So we want to learn how to be gracious with those things. When things happen, it's like, whoa, I'm about to be expanded. Let's go. Martin, what about you? Any last words?
Um, I really want to acknowledge Marshawn,
Yeah.
because what he's given me is a picture of 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 the future,
Mm,
where in high school conversations like this occur, in
wow.
elementary school
Yes.
conversations like this occur, and that's a whole totally different world that we live in right now.
Yeah.
And Marsha, you really, I really, you are my mentor. I,
Thank
you,
you.
you, you're awesome. You're awesome, awesome, awesome.
Yes.
Thank you. Thank
And I
you.
also want to thank Master Force and you, Mushin Su, for putting this together.
Yes.
It's been awesome. It's been awesome. It's been awesome. The kinds of conversations that we have, that we've had tonight, have been um, on the cutting edge.
Yeah.
It's been authentic. It's been
Yeah.
real. And a lot of times we talk about being real, but it's inside of the inauthenticity, or the not wanting to be straight.
Mm-hmm.
And having these kinds of straight conversation causes a change, causes transformation.
Yes.
Um, if anybody wants to reach out to me, magic.net, Maggic, that's Martin at magic.net, or reach out to Masterforce. Masterforce has some great courses, and I would recommend them at any time.
Very cool. And Marshawn, we're going to make sure that we post about your upcoming events. I'll put it on the Masterforce website, as well as
Yes.
we have a Facebook presence for Ignite Your Soul Connection. And listen, we have 3 more magnificent nights coming. Tomorrow night, we're speaking about grounding yourself spiritually. So I love that you guys are like, meditate, meditate, meditate. That's one of the ways, but we will speak
Mm.
about many of those tomorrow. We will speak with our other executive life coach, who is Osir Aten. He will be here tomorrow. And then on Thursday night, we will be having a conversation with Dr. Tammy Matthews, where we're speaking about health, sex, and well-being. Right, so that'll be really great. And then on Friday, all of you guys will be back, where we will have a conversation about relationships, and we will look at that from many different perspectives and many varying degrees of experience as well. So we invite you guys to come back. And again, Marshawn and Martin, thank you so much for your time, your energy, your attention, your insights, your motivation. Just, I had such a wonderful time with you, and I couldn't have asked for a better guest on this topic. So thank you, and thank you for both of you being so gracious with one another. It was beautiful.
Thank you. Thank you. I thoroughly enjoyed this conversation. I love sitting and learning things, being willing to take on and understand different ways about how I move in my life. So yeah,
Very
thank
cool.
you.
Yeah, you're welcome. Hmm.
Thank you also.
Yeah.
Ashe.
Okay. Vicky, anything else? Is that it? Do you have
Uh,
anything for us?
no, I was just gonna ask you to repeat the books maybe one more time, just
Yeah.
so everybody can get those.
Okay, so the ones that I listed were The Power of Your Subconscious Mind by Dr. Joseph Murphy. The second one was The Biology of Belief by Dr. Bruce Lipton. And then the third one is You Can Heal Your Life by Louise Hay.
Oh, and should I list the ones
Yeah,
now
and then
quickly?
Marshawn had 2.
And I have another one too, that I just thought about. So the books that I mentioned were Battlefield of the Mind by Joyce Mayer and Acts of Faith, Daily Meditations for People of Color by Iyanla Van Sant. And then another one that I would add is All Boys Aren't Blue by George M. Johnson.
Okay, very cool.
Martin, did you have any books?
I the books that were mentioned were great, and I will leave it at that.
Thank you, thank you, thank you.
Well, we want to thank everybody for coming out, and hopefully we'll see you all again tomorrow at 7:30 p.m. Central Standard Time.
Thank you, guys.
Thank
Bye.
you.
Martin and Marshawn, stay on, please.
Okay.